Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Spirit Hunters Underground podcast with your host, Matt Lytle. That is me, and my co-host.
Wait, this isn't Booze and Bros? Did I accept
Actually,
the wrong invite for this thing? Like, hi, my name is Chris Califf, and I thought I was here for Booze and Bros. Quite honestly, that's what I honestly believed.
so you're saying because you're drinking, this is Booze and Bros to you and not the Spirit Hunters Underground?
I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. Booze and Bros was so much more who we are. And I understand the climate of the world. I understand what's happening as to why we have Spirit Hunters Underground and what we're trying to do. However, you have to admit, as well as I do, Booze and Bros was just so much more who we were. Are, are, present tense.
You know what? It's crazy that you bring that up because for those of you who only know us for the Spirit Hunters Underground podcast, I have good news. And this is breaking news. This is also breaking news to Chris Califf. I will be putting every single episode of the Booze and Bros podcast back onto YouTube. So for those of you who have not seen those, go
I'm
watch
sorry.
them.
I'm sorry. Like, more than anything, I'm sorry, but you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn some things you wanted to know and some things you probably didn't want to know. Either
Yeah,
way, it's a learning experience.
we filmed the Booze and Bros podcast fall of 2020 into basically the summer of 2021. No. We did Booze and Bros for almost the whole year.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
and then we changed it to the Spirit Hunters Underground. The only difference
I,
between this and the Spirit Hunters Underground and Booze and Bros is the concept was we did have a cocktail for every subject we were talking about, which I think we should go back to. Also, the
that
names
and
changed. I think
not
I
just
think
that,
it's
not the
the name
cocktail, just
change.
the name, pimp. Not just those two, but the way we were able to be who we are, the way we
You
were able to
I
speak.
disagree with that. I think we've been fine on the Spirit Hunters Underground.
Hashtag butt stuff.
Well, yeah,
Hashtag anal probing. Hashtag
probing.
we don't not quit.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
I
mean, let's be
disagree in the
real.
fact that it's not like we're not ourselves on the Spirit Hunters Underground. It's just
We're
we
more
don't
toned down.
we're more toned down because we're trying to be a little more professional instead of jackholes. But doesn't matter because those episodes are going back on YouTube.
So bring
So,
it is
and
what
if
it
you
is.
guys want to see us back and kind of like that, I don't know. Either way, they're back on. That's all that matters. I figured you'd be happy about it, Califf.
Let's go. Dude, I'm stoked. The Vampires and Werewolf episode of Booze and Bros is probably my absolute favorite. I hate how you say werewolves and not
Werewolf.
werewolves. Yeah.
Werewolf.
But that is probably my, like, the fact that we got to debate those things and, like, I'm team werewolf, you're team vampire, but still, like, that was one of my absolute favorite things that we got to talk about. So being able to see that
Mhm.
come back up, I'm pretty excited about because there's a lot of good content and a lot of good stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we really dug into lore. We did a lot of research before we filmed it or, whatever. And I mean, I think it's a great podcast. And again, this one isn't much different. Just Booze and Bros. We had cocktails as a little more loose. And we might get back to it because I really miss the name Booze and Bros. Like, I miss people were telling us, I don't know. It's,
You know, we had mixed reactions to who we were and what we were doing.
yeah.
However, we had fun, and I think that if we're going to continue this industry, we're going to continue. Excuse me, guys. I've drank like a half a bottle at this point, so like bear with me. But if we're going to continue doing what we do and how we do what we do, we
Yeah.
have to be us.
Well,
We have
especially in
to,
podcast world. Like,
yeah.
you need to
We have
be,
to we have to be authentically us.
yeah,
And if we're going to talk about vampires or werewolves or
ghosts.
ghost loop, whatever they have you, we're not going to be the most PG for those things.
Yeah.
If a PG podcast is what you're looking for, there's plenty out there. But we are straight to the point, and we're almost brutally to the point where we don't hold back. And that's the beauty of what Booze and Bros was.
I think it's funny too, is people who have not seen Booze and Bros who are watching this, they're like, that was less than this. Cause I mean, it's trust me, I edit these, dude. There's some stuff. I mean, it's not
Matt's
like
gonna release a blooper reel at some point. At some point, a blooper reel is gonna go on.
That'll
And
get us in trouble.
yeah, we'll get canceled off that particular
Reel.
That reel. So.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the news. That's what I want to talk about before we get into the subject.
Before we go to the subject,
yeah.
I want to say
What's up?
I want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
I fucking miss you, bro.
I know, man. I know. And we're about to talk about my trip up there, and it's gonna make me miss you more. Dude, okay. So let's just get into it real quick. When I got off the plane and was walking to the Uber and you text me, you're like, how does it feel to be back in LA? I was like, would I say bittersweet, but reality, I was pissed. Because like dude, 3 days is just not long enough when you and I go, what did we go, 6 months before this? Before that was only 2 months.
January was the last time we saw each other. December and January.
It was the beginning of December.
Okay, well then yeah. Beginning of December was the last time. So it was 6 months. And then you got to come to a place you'd never come before.
Yeah.
You got to really kind of see what the PNW was all about. Yeah, the Pacific Northwest and what we are about. You got to really kind of see how the other half lives.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty huge for you.
Talk about him.
Yeah. I think it's pretty huge for you. So like, tell me, when you got that plane, you walked out here in the Oregon air. Tell me what was going through your mind.
I love how you're, because we didn't even really talk about how this was going to go. I was just curious to be like, if Califf's going to pick up on like, this first segment is not going to be me asking questions, because it's usually like me doing the questions and he does his little reactions and it's hilarious. So you're such a fucking pro, bro. You're a pro, bro.
I've learned from the best, bro.
Anal pro, bro.
Hashtag anal pro. I've learned from you, bro. I've learned anal probing from you, and I've learned like how to do the podcast thing from you.
No, so, you're amazing.
Is what it is.
You're amazing. I'd hire you in a fucking second. Anyways, I walked out of the airport and it was very quiet. We were in Eugene. It was the Eugene airport, and I look around and I see bunch of farmland and mountains. And one of the first thing I tell you, Califf, when I got in the car, besides "What's up, brother?"
You were hard.
No, I showed you that. What did I tell you?
Dude, you said it felt a lot like home. You said it felt a lot like what you were used to.
Indiana, home. Where I grew up, not where I live now. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. It was Indiana with mountains. That's what I described Eugene as. That's what I think Oregon is. Oregon's prettier. Obviously, it's got mountains with pine trees and that whole Pacific Northwest vibe that none of you who have gone, or I mean, anyone who has not gone, it is exactly like you would expect. It is gorgeous. It's, you can tell you're just in a certain pocket of the United States that not a lot of people go to unless you're from there. Because it's far. I mean, it's far from the South. Far from the Southeast, it's far from the East Coast, it's far from the Midwest. And so it has that feeling, and I think it's gorgeous. I mean, we were driving down a highway and I just had my phone out the window just filming. And I mean, I live in a place, Los Angeles, which is, in my opinion, most beautiful city in the world.
I just got 99 and took you the back way.
Yeah.
And let you kind of see what, I mean, that's the thing about Oregon is that people think of Oregon, think of Portland. They think of, same thing with LA. Skyscrapers, politics, leftist, all that stuff. But you got to see what Oregon was really about. The country land, the mountains, the fresh air, just everything.
It's literally what I was about to say, fresh air. Oh my God, we're on it tonight. Yes, dude. Like, it was great. And like you said, I got to see how the other half of the Spirit Hunters lived. Like, you've been to LA 7 times now.
Something to that effect.
And that was my first time. So, again, getting to go up there and seeing his friends and family and people I know was amazing, because it had been too long. But truly, to go into, we can talk about that all day. Besides the fact we drank, one of my favorite parts was,
oh my God, time out. Okay, Did we drink? Yeah. Matthew, you were for 3 days, correct? 3 days? 5 bottles, guys. 5 bottles in 3 days.
Show him the bottles. What we were drinking.
5 bottles
5.
in 3 days.
And I was also drinking beer.
Yes.
I
And on
went
top of that,
through
Matt
a lot
was
of
still
beer.
going live, having me go live with him, which, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, Papa Califf is back on IG. I'm
Yes.
back. I'm back in the world of, people and
So
such and
follow
things.
him down in the description of the video. That is his Instagram. Please follow him. He's gonna hate me saying this, but he's a very good social media You're good on Instagram, dude. You could do good stories, you do good posts, you
I don't know. I don't know if that's the
interact.
case. I'm
You are.
kind of an attention whore, so that's kind of how that
That's what
works.
social media is about.
So, like at the end of the day, Shanice, what's up, girl?
Oh, what's up,
But
Shanice?
I'm glad I'm back on social media. I got to talk to Chris Starr today,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. Got to tell her I love her and I miss her, and same thing back. I got to see how Matt was doing on social media. I got to see a lot of like folks that I haven't seen in a while. Um,
And
I'm
that's
back
what's
on
good
social
about
media.
social media is you
I'm
can
back on for business. I'm
yeah.
back on for business.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm not going to share a whole lot of my personal life on IG, which most people don't because I just don't want to. You
Yeah.
guys get to see the business half of what we do, the ghost hunting parts of what we do.
In our
Um,
friendship, obviously, like he's gonna
yeah.
post about him and I's friendship in
But if you really
general.
want to see, our friendship, check out the hub because that's where the friendship really takes
Literally
place.
type in the Spirit Hunters Underground and we go underground.
Yeah, let's be
So
real. Let's be real. So some fucking moist towelettes were used in the production of those videos. Anyway,
what where are we going? Okay, back on track.
welcome to Booze and Bros.
So we were talking about how much we drank. We ate
Right,
delicious food.
right.
He showed me, Dutch Brothers coffee. If you guys have
Yes,
been
sir.
there, it is amazing.
Well, the other half cooked you some great food. You got to be able to enjoy some good Oregon barbecue. But more than that, like I want to talk about something because I've got videos of this, and I'm going to share this at some point. Let's
Okay.
talk about Chinese. Let's talk about the Chinese food we had, Matt.
Califf took me to this rundown, really old but delicious Chinese place, and I'm not
What was it
kidding you.
called? What was it called?
Blue Belova, blue whale
So,
or something.
so the whole time we're there, Matt's calling this place Paloma. It's called Blue Willow
Blue
here in
Willow.
Oregon, and it's a divey little you're getting Chihuahua and like Calico Cat.
Oh
That's what
my
you're getting.
God, come on.
But
No. Don't tell me
but
that. That
at the,
makes ugh.
but at the end of it, we go there, and everybody I know and I love is telling Matt, dude, this place is bad for you. It's going to end up bad for you, all that stuff. So I filmed Matt both pre and post having this food, and it was glorious.
It was a lot, but it was so delicious. I told Caleb when we were eating, I was like, the thing you don't know about one thing you don't know about me is my father loves taking me to like China buffets and stuff like that because there's a lot of them in the Midwest. And I grew up eating what we ate, and I was pleasantly surprised. And we got 6 plates, and 4 of them are
Oh, dude,
free.
they gave us 4 free entrees because I've gone there for the last 15, 20 years. So
Mm-hmm.
we got 4 free entrees, and we only had to pay for our plates.
Yeah, we paid less than 40 for
Yeah,
and
less than
drinks
40
and stuff like
bucks.
that. Yeah.
Less than 40 bucks for a buffet style meal. Yes.
120 would have been 120 if we would have paid for everything. Yeah. That was awesome. We also had leftovers.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
That was delicious. But yeah, that was great. And I mean, other than that, I kind of want to get
Well,
into
yeah.
Salem.
So starting with that, one of the first places we visited was where I began ghost hunting at the Lee Mission Cemetery in Salem, Oregon. I know you posted a video on IG about kind of what we were going through, and
We went
I talked
live,
on it and
yeah.
so forth. It went live. So tell me, when we pulled in there, I explained to you a lot of stuff. What the clairsentience in you? What were you feeling? What were you vibing on? What was going on in your head?
Yeah, a couple things that I felt. I think I mentioned some in the live, but the two biggest things I felt was Holy shit. You know, because a lot of people are like, all cemeteries are haunted. I don't believe that. But it was haunted. There was a lot of spirits there. Some cemeteries you go in, you're like, it's just people buried here. There's just people's ashes buried here, but not this place. This place it was like walking into like a flea market of spirits. And the second thing I felt was 100,000% that all those spirits, and I'm gonna say 50 plus, 50 plus spirits are there. All of them knew who you were.
That's the scariest part about that place is like we talked about. That's my first ghost hunt. I mean, you're talking 20 years ago, going in there and I didn't have to wear glasses at that point. My eyes still worked. I still grew hair, you know. um, but to go back to a place that I hadn't been to in so long, and with my best friend, with my brother, with somebody who can feel and see those things, it was definitely kind of a call to arms, if you will,
Really?
because it was definitely a hey, dude, remember where you came from type moment.
Ooh, I like that. Why? So again, we went live and talked about a story, and we were there. So you have visuals of the story. One of his most intense experiences, probably your first most intense experience too. So I don't really want to talk about that, but I mean, kind of tell the viewers like what's your history? Like you haven't just investigated that place once. Like what beside tell that story. Screw it. Tell it. What's the top
Well,
two
I mean,
things that's
you
happened
have to
there?
you have to remember, like that was my first ghost hunt, and it wasn't just one night ghost hunt and it done. We were there 5 nights straight. I got my first EVP there. I got chased out by a spirit there. The first time I was physically assaulted by a spirit, if you will, was at that place. Um, we had done an EVP by a young lady's grave. Her name was Lucille. And we were pulling the EVP. We played back in the moment. And we had an EVP that said, "Help me, daddy." We know what that meant. None of us were dads at that point. This is 20
Right, you
years ago
were
before I had kids.
17 years
Yeah.
old.
All of us were kids at that point. We had no idea what was happening. And, just happened to be by this little girl's grave that died of appendicitis when she was 5. That was clearly calling out for her father to help her through the trauma she was going through. Then we go back, look at the older section, and it goes back to the live video. Let's talk about that cast iron gate, Matt. 6 bodies that we know of are buried top to bottom in that section. What did you feel first time you saw that?
Oh, that's the hot spot of the cemetery. I think the backwoods and that specifically that I don't know how many feet by feet it was, but that was the hot spot of the cemetery. And that I felt before you told me what had happened. And the bar, again, watch the video on it was my Instagram page. There's 2 layers of bars, and one bar is gone. And he witnessed that. And it wasn't
Yeah,
something that just, it was poltergeist. No, it was something dark. And that, I think, whatever that entity was, tell me if I'm wrong or right or what your opinion is. But that entity itself is the one that goes around and kind of makes sure that all the other spirits are in check. You know what I mean?
I couldn't say that it's there to keep things in check, but the way I described it to Matt is the same way I described it to you guys that are listening or watching. If you've seen the movie 13 Ghosts, there's a particular spirit in that franchise called the Juggernaut. 7 foot tall monster that just kills and fucking destroys everything.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw. That's what we felt. We knew that whatever was pacing between that, I mean, you're looking at probably, I'd say it's a 10 by 6 box of cast iron, and it's
Yeah.
just pacing. We watched one of the bars blow out. The bottom bars just bend, pop out, and drop. And this thing, like, it knew what it wanted. It wanted out. And it was one of those things that for us, I mean, it's forever left kind of a scar in all of us that were there because you're face to face with something that wants out, and you don't know if it wants you, your soul, to be free or whatever have you. So,
Yeah. That's terrifying, dude. And it's crazy. Why does stuff like that happen? Like when I was a teenager, all of my first locations, they were like stuff like that happened. Like doors slamming, like get the fuck out EVPs. I don't know what it is about being a
we
teenager.
weren't, well, I think as a teenager, I think we weren't desensitized, right? We've gone
Exactly.
through hundreds of hunts, and the things that we would see at first in the beginning and see these apparitions or whatever have you happen, we don't see those anymore because we're so desensitized. We're
Yeah.
waiting for the demon to fucking walk up and rip our throats out, as opposed to looking for Grandma Joe who just wants to say goodbye.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's what, you and I, every time we go on a serious investigation, especially to a house that needs help, we gotta kind of, it's like a pregame. You're in the huddle talking to your team kind of about not just what you're gonna do, but your mindset going in, how you're gonna play. That's what Califf and I do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to look at like the Nuggets, right? Like you're going for the championship. That's what you're doing, and you've got to win. So, I mean,
True.
fuck Miami. No, kid, you can take a lot of shit out. Um,
I mean,
but
Nuggets
no,
won fair and square.
yeah.
They're a great
But
team.
you got to look at it like the way Matt and I do from our first hunt to this most recent hunt. It's always been not what's best for us, but what's best for the people around and the
Yep.
spirits.
Yep. And
Period.
those of you who know us know that that's our thing. I mean, in our last two videos, we mention all that. We mention that basically every time we talk. But yeah, so okay, let's move on. Lee Mission Cemetery, I'll never forget. I want to go every time I'm
Okay,
up in Oregon. I want
so
to
I'll
go.
ask you again. So next stop, so we left Lee Mission after Matt had his profound #blessed experience,
Hashtag.
and we went to Dutch Brothers. Tell me about Dutch Brothers, Matthew.
Dutch Brothers was a delicious coffee place that I mentioned earlier, and man, I mean their talls are like this big. I know I'm on a computer, but that's is bigger than my head. Delicious. I love it. Everybody loves it there. I mean, everybody that we met up with had it. It was the equivalent to Southern California's In-N-Out lines.
Yeah,
Busy
Dutch
all
Dutch is
day.
definitely Dutch is definitely a Pacific Northwest thing, and people they absolutely love it. You can have Starbucks, which is the same old missionary position, or you
Mm-hmm.
can have Dutch, which is a bend you over and get you fuck doggy style.
Yeah, a
So
little flexible.
yeah, so I mean, Dutch is definitely one of the things people love the most down here. From Dutch though, we went to a place that's very, very special to me because of my history, because of the things I've gone through. You guys know about my suicide attempt. You guys know about mental health and all things to deal with. We went to the Oregon State Hospital. Now, that's the place for the clinically mentally insane. Now, Matt, when we drove up to that place, talk to me about it. What'd you see? What'd you feel? Oh,
This hospital in Salem, Oregon is where they filmed what?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was filmed
With
in Salem, Oregon, and what they call the J Building, which no longer exists because it was taken down, but filmed in Salem, Oregon.
Yes. So that was really cool. But yeah, driving up to it, I mean, I have not been to a place that intimidating in years. I mean, what I will say, let's paint a picture real quick. We're driving by the front, and this man right here, he's a damn good storyteller, especially when we're doing this stuff. He goes, look up in one of those windows, you might see somebody looking back. And as soon as he said that, I just chills went down my spine. You're just looking around, and it's weird because there's all these cars in the parking lot because it's still a working hospital, and the prison is right there, the penitentiary, which we'll talk about, but it's still just dead silent. And just that's why going to abandoned places like this is so scary and so haunted. But when they're active, when they're actually still in work, I mean, all of that vibe that you feel going up to an abandoned one, it's that times 10, because guess what? Those vibes are still alive, literally.
Well, keep in
It's
mind,
scary, dude.
this is right across the way from Jerome Brutos' house.
Mm,
Jerome Brutos, being a foot fetish killer here in Salem, Oregon, killed 4 people that he was convicted of. He would
mhm.
take them from parking garages. He would put them on hook and pulley systems. Shit you would see in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hook and pulley systems. He'd keep them alive for days as he raped them. And then before he killed them, he would cut off their feet and put them in the freezer so he could jerk off on them later. Jerome Brunos was a special kind of fucked up. And Matt saw his house as well.
Yeah, we drove by that house and we drove by the neighborhood, but we did see the house. That I will say, if we were to wrap this up now and you'd be like, which place would you want to go back to? Is that place? Which place would you want to step into? The hospital would be pretty fun. Like fun. I say fun. It's fun for us.
Tunnels of the hospital would be the best.
The tunnels of the hospital, but man, Jerry Brunos' house would be on another level.
Well, you guys think about
this. Go ahead.
With every serial killer we've dealt with outside of Ridgeway, because Ridgeway's the only one that's still there. Every serial killer we've dealt with, we talked about whether it was Winter Kills or now or whatever have you, they've destroyed the house. H.H. Holmes, Gacy, fucking Bundy, whatever have you. They've destroyed the house. Jerome Brunos' house, as it was, still stands.
Same paint, same everything. And that's why I would want to step in there. And you guys, this serial killer was on an episode of Mindhunter, season 1 of Mindhunter. So if you guys have watched that show, he's the foot fetish killer is what they call him on the episode.
The one that jerks off on the high heels.
Yeah, they bring him high heels, trigger objects. See, true crime and the paranormal go hand in hand. Anyways.
Agreed.
Yeah, that was crazy. I want to go back to the hospital though, because I want to talk about.
So, we went from Jerome Brunos' house. We'll talk about Jerome Brunos on another day.
Yeah.
But we're at the hospital, and I remember we're driving by the front. And remember, guys, the front of the hospital is what they call the old building. It's what existed 100 years ago. They've turned into a museum. The new facility sitting behind it is very updated. Looks like a brand new prison. But that first part is the old part of the asylum, essentially, that they've turned into a museum, and you can still see it in its grandeur from when it was built in the early 1900s.
Yeah. We didn't get to go in the museum. Believe they were closed when we went, but I want to go in next time and maybe like pull a Sam and Dean and sneak in an EMF detector.
So if you sneak in ghost hunting equipment, if you try to ghost hunt it, if they see you on YouTube ghost hunting it, so forth, so on, Oregon State Hospital is so keen and looks for that stuff so thoroughly that if you do that, they will blacklist you from ever being able to come in again. Oregon is so serious about making sure that their hauntings and their dirty secrets, whether it be the DOJ building, like I told you, right across the way with Michael Franke, who was killed for finding some DOC secrets. It doesn't matter. Oregon likes to hold their secrets and make sure they don't get out.
And that's our challenge. Either way, I want to talk about that building too. That's right there with hundreds and hundreds of. I just posted this the other day.
Think about this. So we go up to the Oregon State Hospital. I tell Matt, "Hey, dude, look at the windows. You might still be looking back at you. It's not like a facility." And then I bring them to a place, this monument of misery, if you will.
Oh man, that was. Did you pull that one out of your ass? That was really good.
I had a documentary about Fairview, which is a place that I didn't get to show you.
I know. Hey, guys,
moving on.
Okay, go ahead.
Moving on. So this monument of misery, if you will, it's a bunch of canisters of unclaimed human remains. And I don't mean like bones, they're clearly, they were
cremated, yeah,
and put into like essentially Campbell's soup cans. They're unnamed. I mean, think about that, Matt. And like, this is a big thing for you, and I want to know how you felt, because you're in the presence of the energy of hundreds of people who are unnamed and not remembered. So tell me, as I walked you up to that, because you saw it, as you walk up to that, what were you feeling, man?
Helplessness. I mean, that's it. They don't. No one knows them. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to be like, hey, I'm this person. That's my ashes right there. This is me. I'm not number 42. Like, I'm this person. These people didn't do anything wrong in life. They're not prisoners who they just, threw to the side and like, they were pieces of shit people anyways. These are just, weren't they just people from the hospital?
people that were, I mean, it could be as little as ADHD up to mental
Yeah.
retardation, and they care. You paid OSH, the Oregon State Hospital, a little bit of money, and they take them off your hands.
Yeah.
That's just what they did.
And they were placed in, I'm talking hundreds, man. It was sad. I mean, it was like going into, I'm not comparing it to this whatsoever. I am, but I'm not to this extent. Please don't cancel me for saying this, but I've been to Ground Zero in New York. And that feeling of just dread and helplessness and just like you feel like somebody's pressing down on your shoulders. It's what it felt like.
It's not much different because there's still unnamed victims of 9/11.
Exactly.
Souls and spirits that are screaming out saying,
Just
"Hey,
lost
help me.
souls.
Yeah, help
That's
me.
exactly
I
what it
was a
is.
person at one point." And
Exactly.
at OSH, it's scary because these are people, you look at 9/11, and those are people that are taken way too soon. Terrorist attack.
Like that over
Yeah.
something that
But then
we
you
do a
look
whole
at
podcast about
OSH.
it.
Yeah.
Something
You
that
look
is
at
unthinkable.
You
Not
look
a
at
car
OSH.
crash.
You've got people that were tied to walls.
Mm.
In the tunnels underneath the Oregon State Hospital, I told you, there are ringlets in the walls against metal plates with literal fingernail scratches on the side of people that were tied up down there by their wrists, trying to scratch the brick to get their way out. If you act out, what are we going to do? We're going to tie you up in a tunnel 40 feet below ground, and that's where you're going to stay.
Where no one can hear you.
More than that, where no one can hear you scream, to the point where you have to scratch at brick with your own fingernails until they bleed, trying to hope that you can get out of there. Matt, from somebody who's from LA who's seen a bunch of shit like you have, tell me, what were your overall thoughts?
I was just super, super surprised at how many haunts were in Salem. Like, you weren't lying. You had always told me how haunted Salem, Oregon was, where you grew up. And it's not just all of the haunts, it's the vibe of the town. I mean, it feels like one of those, maybe not like stylistically, not Savannah, Georgia or New Orleans, but it feels just as haunted as those towns. But the difference is, like you said, no one knows about Salem, Oregon's haunts because they are so much more secretive about it all than the Savannahs in the Salem, Massachusetts and the New Orleans.
Let's be real. I work for
Crazy.
I work for City of Salem.
Yeah. You literally go there
I
5 days a
work for
week.
City of Salem. And I know a bunch of the stuff they've hidden. And that's just tip of the iceberg. Let's look at, moving forward, let's look at Sherry Irely. There's a lot there. So let's start with when I told you the story about a week or 2 weeks before you came down. Kind of start there. What were your thoughts?
Well, time out. Before we start getting into the story and what I thought about it, you have to plug our latest video on our page, which is on our way to Sherry Irely, to the Sherry Irely abduction site. And if you've seen it, we're about to talk about it. If not, pause this podcast, go onto our page and watch that. It's a 10-minute video.
And it's a pretty incredible video. It's where I get to discuss kind of the premise of the case.
Yep.
And where Matt gets kind of, shed his light and his opinion is about you now.
Yeah.
But as we're on this podcast, and you got to share in a 10-minute video, you had to share an event's worth of emotion. So not really the podcast, man, as we're pulling up, tell me, what's going through your head? How you feeling? Well, like I said, 2 weeks before you'd heard the story.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Let me start with your first question, which was great. What did I think of the story in general? I've never, in my career of investigating, I've never been to I've been to body dumps, but I've never been to a place where the actual abduction happened. And of course, this is a poor girl whose body has still not been found, which makes it even more of a mystery, even more of a haunting. So I was intrigued. Obviously, I Google mapped kind of where it was. You sent me a couple links, so I was getting kind of visually in tune with it. But you can only do so much. You got to go to the place. which leads me to, yes, of course, I was very, very interested. When you said I'll show you around Salem, of course, I didn't know what we just talked about for 30 minutes. I'm super pumped you did that. But the whole day I was waiting to get to the Sherry Irely abduction site
Well,
to really feel
before
how
we
it
talk
was.
about how you felt and like we got there, I mean, let's look at the case as a whole. I mean, have you got the case file? You got to read, Darrell Wilson, William Scott Smith. You got to read
Mhm.
kind of what was happening in Salem, Oregon in the early '80s. The serial killer, almost epidemic that took place in
Yeah.
Oregon in the '80s, and the connection between all these fucking people. So, like, let's talk about that first. When you heard about how complex this was, as opposed to your like initial snatch and grab, what were your thoughts to see all the layers in this case? I mean, you're talking psychic, you're talking all these things. So, like, with all that information
Unreal.
dumped on you,
Yeah. I mean, that's what piqued my interest was, like you just said, there was a psychic medium that was brought in to try to figure out who did it. And that has been a thing, but obviously it's not a very popular thing, or else more people would know that sometimes police bring in psychic mediums. Um, and Califf and I disagree when it comes to true crime things and the way stories are, the way crimes happen, who did it, how they do it, all this. Him and I actually disagree a lot on several cases. One being like Gary Ridgway. He thinks that he potentially the one in jail wasn't him at all. I think he was. With that's a whole nother podcast.
but that's the beauty of you and I is that we can put these thoughts against each other to try to find the deeper and the more meaningful conclusion to the matter, right?
And I think
So
this helps.
you look
Go
at
ahead.
Irely, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Irely, you know my thoughts. My thoughts were simply William Scott Smith didn't do it. Period. We're in the midst of talking to Marion County Sheriff's, the cold case file unit that actually closed the case and that worked the case. All these things. We have a bunch of pieces coming. But Matt, what were your thoughts? Again, you heard the story. Go ahead.
I agree with you. That was my buildup. I completely agree. I don't think William Scott Smith did it. I think he was given this and given that to say that he did it, given this little information. There's just too much that does not make sense for him to be there. And you can say, oh, well, his partner knew the time that they called the pizza place where Sherry Irely was working, Domino's, right?
But Roger
And
Joseph died in '05, so how can you prove that?
exactly. So, and you can't sit here and say that Wilson for sure did it just because he hanged himself after the psychic went to his house and was like, "You did it, you did it." He probably had
let's
a
talk.
lot going
Let's
on
talk
in
about that
life.
for. Let's talk about that for a second.
I would
As a
love
clear
to.
to you.
I'd love
So
to.
you get called. I mean, this is unsolved mysteries. This is all these things.
I already know what you're
But
going to ask, but continue.
yeah, hold on. The particular medium. What was his name again? I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
John starts with a
Catchings.
C.
John
Catchings. There you go.
Catchings.
John Catchings.
John Catchings claimed that he had seen Irely's spirit at the end of his bed, and that's why he took the case. So he shows up with Marion County Sheriff's, a particular detective, which makes this case so much personal. Matt and I, the detective's name, Michael Myers. How much more personal do you have to get to Matt and I, but to have a detective named Michael Myers?
That's what really attracted me to this case. Everything I just said is all a lie. It was just because he's like, the detective was Michael Myers. I was like, I'm in. What's the case? Totally kidding. But it is funny.
But then they go, and this John Catchings and Detective Myers go to question a guy named Darrell Wilson. Now, Darrell Wilson was camping the night Irely was abducted. However, he was gone from 6:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m.
6 hours, right? Yeah.
And they saw a lime green truck around the area she was abducted, which was what Darrell Wilson's truck looked like. He had painted it root beer brown a couple weeks later. All these things in play, he shakes Darrell Wilson's hand and he says, in my heart of hearts, in everything I believe, in my mind, in my soul, I knew Darrell Wilson was the one who had done it. Now, that's cool. That's to hear a psychic say that. Granted, his batting average was
zero. Yeah, he had gone on how many cases, and all of them were false?
I think damn near a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
So now, with all these facts for you guys that are listening laid out for this particular case, Now we're looking at somebody that is a clairsentient like Matt, who can feel what they felt, who can feel the situation, who can embrace those feelings. As we took that right turn onto that dirt road, Matt, starting from there, talk to me about what was going through your head, what you were feeling, what you were seeing.
Yeah. I mean, I even say in the video, again, you guys can watch it. I even say I would have turned around at this point. And as soon as I say that, what is to my right? The abduction site. I don't know why I said that. Just something, good God, dude, I have goosebumps like
Well,
crazy right now.
let's keep in mind. I'm gonna say this and be completely honest. I didn't give Matt the ability to see it first. I didn't give Matt the ability to go there first and see the location and then be able to run it back and give him the opportunity to respond. I literally had him filming as we pulled up to, he had never seen it, had no clue where we were. I told him about suicide spots and all, where I was planning on committing suicide. We were talking about heavy stuff up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So he had no idea. And I say this because in your preface to you guys, he had no idea what he was about to feel and or what we were about to roll up on.
Yeah. So he's exactly right. And I'm very, very glad you did that because as a sensitive, clairsentient, whatever, you don't want to know any information. Just like psychic mediums say, I don't want to know any information. It can skew your thought process and your feeling for me and your vibes, your emotions. But it also like takes away credibility. If you hear somebody be like, oh, this guy died here and his name is this, then you're a psychic medium. And you're like, if you do end up talking to that guy, it's like, well, people might not believe me because, oh, well, you just told me. Anyways, so thank you for that. So yeah, that's what I felt. I want to turn around and scuffling. Like there was a lot of scuffling. That's what's really disturbing. Do you want me to get into us being there already?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So when we pulled up, we got out of the car. Again, our video is on YouTube right now, but obviously it was cut short in the video. There were so many big trucks driving by. It was a small road, so it was very dangerous and very loud, and we just couldn't stay there much longer. We were getting gravel thrown into our face, but being there, I couldn't. The thing that was most disturbing about standing right by the cross where Sherry was abducted was I kept kind of visually seeing and feeling struggle and hearing the gravel like tussle, like people are wrestling around, but there was no signs of struggle when the cops showed up. Her car was still running with the e-brake on.
But in 82, what is your depiction of struggle? And this is what pains me and why we're pushing Marion County sheriffs to interview with us and talk about this case. Or the 3 pizzas that she was supposed to deliver were found on the ground at least a meter away. Her hat a half meter away. To me, that shows signs of struggle.
Yeah. And I could feel that struggle, bro. Like, where we were at. You see in the video how calm
think about it, Matt. I want you to take in Irely's feelings, what you felt there. The e-brake was up, which means she parked that car for some reason, put the e-brake up. When they found her car, the driver door was open, the car was still running. E-brake was up. Keto was about a meter away. Hat was about a half meter away. As a clairsentient, what does that tell you? She's talking to you, isn't she? No, she's talking to you, isn't she? She's talking to you, isn't she? The thing about Sherry is not afraid to be vocal, bro. I've heard her. One of my first the EMPs we caught down there was a group of 5 men, right? No females. And we played EMP pack on the way out of there, and we had a blood-curdling female scream. None of us heard while we were down there.
Wow.
Sherry lets you know when you're a part of this case, it becomes personal, and Sherry lets you know.
Yeah, especially feeling what she felt and talking about.
So tell me, what did you just hear? What did you just hear? What did you just see? What did you just feel?
I think it was more I don't know. You just said she's very vocal. It wasn't, I don't think it was disembodied. I think I heard, how you can hear spirits and you're the only one who hears it. They're talking to you. That's what I just heard. All my left. I don't know why it always happens over my left fucking ear.
I got a little bit of goosebumps on that one, bro.
So guys, here's the thing too. I'm home alone. I live with my girlfriend. I'm home alone. mentioned, do not, anything that's around me, do not show yourself. Do not show yourself while she's here, only when I'm alone. And I'm dead alone. And I want to mention, while we were talking about this, I felt scared. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I felt scared.
What point did you start feeling scared?
When you were talking about it was like right before when we were talking about how see, I can't even remember, like from what just happened to now. I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Would you think that maybe what you felt, what you heard, was Irely, or maybe it was Wilson, Daryl Wilson?
No, it was.
Imagine if he was trying to plead his case to you, saying, hey Matt, like I didn't do this.
I think it could be both. I don't know, because like you just said, we're in the middle of this.
Bro, I got chills right now.
This happens, man, dude. When you, like you just said, when you're this close to a case this sensitive and you're in it, especially talking about it. We were just there a week and a half ago, bro. Like we were just there opening ourselves up. I always talk about how I open myself up to this and that. You did as well. You've done this case.
But Sherry, the thing that people understand is that people look at like a lot of this ghost stuff and fuck, it's not real. Sherry makes sure you know. Once you're a part of this case, Sherry makes. Oh, dude, I got goosebumps.
I think that was her. I'm feeling very. I'm feeling like.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you on the way out there, Matt? I never met her. I was born 4 years after she died, but yet I feel like I've known her my whole life.
Yeah, you did say that.
Oh, dude.
You know what's weird?
Man, that's gross.
Can I tell you something too?
I just got goosebumps.
You got chills too?
Gross.
I now feel the same way. It's been a week and a half, been there, really open up, and I edited our video. So I got to look at a lot of footage of us talking about it. I got to really see the location we were at again, and like knowing that my physical body was just there too. I think it's really morphed into Sherry being able, she might have followed us away. She probably did. I think she followed me. I think she followed me. And I'm creeped out.
Dude, tell me. No, stop. What are you feeling? What are you hearing?
I feel
people
like
need to know.
I know. Let me fucking talk. Listen. Something's happening. There's a girl there. It's her. It's a girl. She's I just heard a noise out in my fucking kitchen.
Okay, dude, I didn't even hear that, but I got goosebumps already.
Dude, I wish I was lying.
Something feels really gross, dude.
I wish I was
lying.
Something
does not feel right.
Like I'm sweating right now.
How is it every time we podcast, something wants to come through and talk to us? Why?
Dude, all I know is Sherry loves the fuck out of us. That's what she's saying. She loves that we're looking into this. She loves that we care, even though we don't know her. She does. And I don't see her as an 18-year-old. I see her as a grown adult. Like she's like mom's age. She'd be like our parents' age. I don't know. Would she be?
She would be, technically. I mean, you figure she was 18
she'd be exactly my mom's age, almost. Yeah.
So she would be 37.
So 60
plus 4.
64 when she was born. So she'd be 58, 59.
And change.
Whatever.
And like the thing about her is every time I've encountered her energy, every time I've encountered her presence, if you will. And you know me, I'm not a feeler, man.
No,
I've got basic cable comparative to you, I've got basic cable to your holy shit. I have 700 fucking channels.
I got the bundle.
Yeah, but you know when she's there. You know when she's not trying to be there to scare you. She's not there trying to make you feel
she's
shit.
Scaring me though.
But
I will admit.
But she's there to say, "Hey, I'm here. Thank you for talking about me. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront of people." You know, Sherry wants her story to be told. And think about it. Her body, to this day, has still never been found. So
sad.
All she has is a probably 4-foot cross at the site she was abducted at. And even that, they don't even take care of anymore.
No, it was overgrown.
You saw that?
Yeah. And you were right with that, but the only other thing she has as well is what? People remembering her and talking about her, especially talking about potentially communicating with her spirit, being like, oh my gosh, they believe that I'm here. Like they want to communicate with me. This is my opportunity to show them that like, hey, I'm here. But like I said, she's not a teenager right now. She's grown up. I don't know how that's happened in the afterlife. We don't know. That's in theory. She grew up somehow, some way, and that's who she is and how she is now. I don't think she has. I think at her site is more of the energy of the abduction, but I think her spirit has a little more closure. She wants more answers, but I think she's now okay with, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
think it's more
yeah.
of that residual energy that's screaming and doing
Well,
all
let's
that. I
talk.
think her spirit
Let's
is.
talk about this. William Scott Smith, Darrell Wilson. If you were John Catchings, what were your thoughts?
Ooh, if I were him,
Yeah, put
that
yourself in his
guy's.
shoes. And mind you, those are smaller shoes than you wear, and a bigger belt than you wear.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, let's put yourself in that situation. You're there with Detective Michael Myers.
yeah,
You put your boner away because his name's Michael Myers. Put the boner
yeah.
away. You meet Darrell Wilson. Darrell Wilson's already being groomed and thought of for the disappearance of his 9-year-old niece, Danielle Good. Okay. So you already know this guy has a history of being a shitty person. His alibi doesn't match the abduction night. He claims he doesn't know the victim. Come to find out, they both know each other. So put yourself there. John Catchings removed. You're there with Michael Myers. 1982, Salem, Oregon. You walk up to Darrell J. Wilson. Last call here at Booze and Bros.
Last call.
What do you do? What do you feel? What do you say? What do you think?
You want me to be honest with you?
110%.
I'd shake his hand and I would say, "You didn't do it, but you know who did." And I think that's,
I just got goosebumps on that.
yeah, I think that's what I would do. I believe that's the truth. And I don't think it was William Scott Smith either. I think the biggest mystery is still out there. And that's why I think this case is such a crazy paranormal case for us. And
What I
so it
think
hits home.
what I think is the
It
worst.
hits home to me now too.
What I think is the worst for this case is I've met, back in the day, I met Sherry's mom. I met Sherry's dad. I met Sherry's cousins. I met people that knew her, that went to school with her, that loved her. I met her boyfriend in 1982. And nobody had a negative thing to say. She partied a little bit. She did a little bit here, a little bit there. What every 18-year-old kid did. Nobody had a negative word. I look at people like Ridgway. I look at people like Bundy. I look at people like Gacy. What gave them the goddamn right or the authority to think that they could take the life of these human beings that wanted nothing but to be able to enjoy their existence?
I just kind of want to do like a moment of silence. That's
I
that's
agree.
heavy, dude. That's heavy.
Sherry, that's an 18-year-old girl that never got to grow up. That's like I told you when we were out there, man. And what hits me the hardest is all she has left is the place she was taken from, the place where she ceased to exist.
Terrible.
Not a place to rest, not a place to go visit her and remember, but just the place where she ceased to exist. Who knows? Bruce might have got over. You don't know. We don't know. And that's the shittiest
Yeah.
part is we don't know.
Well, I'll update you guys if anything happens after we podcast, because I definitely feel like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff around both of us. It could have just been Holmes or something. You know what I mean? It could have just been a
Oh
spirit
yeah,
that's around
yeah,
us.
yeah. Time out, guys. It's just the first
Just
serial
H.H.
killer
Holmes.
ever
Let's
in the
not talk about
history of
him
fucking serial.
because
But
something
I'm
will
just
probably
saying.
happen
What I'm saying is, we'll just downplay the fact that it could be the first serial killer ever.
in America. Yeah.
What? Yeah. We'll
Okay.
just downplay
So
that.
you wanted to tell everyone before we go, you said last call, but this is the real last call. Tell them what you've been doing, dude.
The real last call is simple, guys. We've been in touch with Marion County Sheriff's, Oregon State Police. We've been in touch with Salem Police, retired investigators, retired detectives. people that have dealt with these cases, and particularly Irely and other cases that kind of fit that MO. And we've been asking questions. We've been digging, trying to figure out what really happened, why it really happened, and what's really going on. On top of that, Matt and I haven't just stopped at the Irely stuff, right? The other stuff was a good start, but it doesn't change the fact that pen pals like, I don't know, Gary Ridgway, BTK, Son of Sam, people like this that we are trying. And I don't mean trying in the fact that we're begging them to write to us, but we're looking at it like, hey, do you guys want to have a conversation? Let's talk about the paranormal aspects of what you did. Gary Ridgway, for example, saw victims at the end of his bed. BTK had a dog, demon dog, telling him what to do. Berkowitz heard demons or whatever the fuck Berkowitz did. He's weird. Anyway, what it boils down to is that, you know, we're really out there and we're trying to ask these questions. What's the paranormal aspects to serial killers?
Literally writing, Califf has written physical letters to these guys. I don't know why you forgot to mention that, but you literally have written letters to the men he just mentioned about that stuff. So if we ever get a letter back, I'll probably fly up to Oregon. We'll open it. We'll do a whole thing about it. But yeah, so we've been just kind of experimenting with some stuff.
Well, let's be real. Papa Ridgway, you know, like if you're watching this, if you get on the YouTubes and,
Papa Roach,
you know, you want to like, you know, look at who Matt and I are after we've written a letter and talked about that stuff. Gary Ridgway, I'm speaking to you specifically. We want to know. We don't care about what people already know. We don't care about the fact that you strangled them and nutted at the same time. No, you're keeping this. Shut up.
I'm sorry. You're just so fucked up right now.
I don't care that you choked him and
you said
from behind.
You said Papa Ridgway.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't give a shit
what
you did. But what I would like to talk about is the fact that you saw them. Like how? You're sitting there, you're laying with your wife, you're playing with your dick, and you're seeing ghosties of your victims at the end of your bed. Now, let me ask you, Matt, in closing.
Doesn't Ridgway have a mustache too?
Fuck you. Anyway,
God.
Let me ask you this. As a clairsentient, last piece, how would you feel put yourself in Ridgway's shoes? You're this notorious serial killer.
Yeah.
And as you lay with the person you love, you're seeing spirits at the end of your bed. What would you tell Ridgway about that?
You want my honest opinion?
I'm being dead serious. Go. Like dead serious. Go.
What would I tell Ridgway about that?
Yeah.
You're fucked in the afterlife. Enjoy hell and getting your balls ripped off 24/7.
There's still how many bodies left on? There's 2, right? Unidentified?
Two.
Unidentified bodies, 2 left, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, we don't have to get into him. Listen, we've done a lot on this podcast. I think this has been a great episode.
At the end of the day, I want to say this.
Oh, here
to the family. Yeah, shut up, bitch. To the family of Sherry Melissa Irely, we truly, our hearts go out to you. You never got justice. You never got to bury anything and never got to have closure. And at the end of it, we're here for you. And if Matt's clairsentience or our investigation can shed any light that hasn't been, we will.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. I mean, it's a personal thing, and we won't let it
go. Before we sign off, heard in my bathroom, which is right around the corner, like my bathtub, you know how like you like stand up from a bathtub and your like foot kind of like slides on it or whatever? That's what I just heard. So on that note, we'll see you guys next week.
Have a good night.